I'm Emily. I work at Counterpoints Arts, which is a national charity that supports and produces the arts about migration and displacement. And we coordinate the Refugee Week partnership. And I'm going to talk about, share with you what Refugee Week is and also how you can get involved. So Refugee Week is all of you. It's everybody on this call. This image that I'm sharing now was created after a big Zoom get-together that we had before last year's Refugee Week. It's by the artist Ida Silvestri. It was part of Art Refuge's Corona Quilt project. And I think it's probably the most beautiful rendition of a Zoom call that definitely I've ever seen. So half of us that are here today, around half have been involved in Refugee Week before. Around half of us are new to Refugee Week, which is really wonderful. So a huge welcome to faces old and new. Between us, we work or are involved in arts and culture, community support and campaigning, education, local authorities, businesses and social enterprises. And we are here today from Yorkshire and Humberside, the West Midlands, Southwest England, Southeast England, Northwest England, Northeast England. This is normally the bit in the conference where everyone goes, yay, that's me. So feel free to do that. East of England, East Midlands, London, Scotland, Wales, and also outside the UK. So between us as a network, as a movement, we have knowledge and experience, and we're able to reach spaces and communities that we never could alone. And this network, this movement, is the strength and the heart of Refugee Week. And we are continually inspired at this kind of ongoing, difficult and horrible time at the way that this movement continues to come together because we share a vision of a society and a world where everybody is safe, where everybody is welcomed and everybody is valued. And actually we've been exploring over autumn and winter, we've been digging a little bit deeper into the vision that we share for Refugee Week and how we believe Refugee Week can help achieve this vision. And I'm really excited to be sharing with you today. We've just publishing today an updated version of the Refugee Week theory of change. I will share, when I finish, I'll share the links to everything that I'm mentioning in the chat. So it's really, really an honour and a joy to be here with all of you today at the launch of the Refugee Week Slow Conference. Some of you may have been with us around this time last year when we had two big in-person conferences. It really feels like another world. The Refugee Week Conference is normally a time for us to come together, to network, share learning, share food. Sometimes we sing, sometimes we dance. And it's a real testimony to this network that we've continued to find ways to come together and to make Refugee Week happen. So Refugee Week 2020 had to move online in the space of about 2 months, and we really weren't sure how it was going to work. And over 350 events and activities were organised online, which was an incredible and a testimony to the passion and the flexibility of this network. So Refugee Week was founded in 1998 in response to growing hostility towards refugees and asylum seekers. And of course, any of us reading the news at the moment, looking at how people seeking safety here are being treated and being talked about at the moment, sadly, the need to tackle this hostility is more urgent than ever. Refugee Week is a proud celebration. It's a festival, I should say, that it happens around World Refugee Day every year, which is the 20th of June. And it's a proud celebration, a celebration of welcome, a celebration of the strength we have when we come together, and a celebration of the ways that UK's history and culture is enriched by people that have come here seeking safety. It's a festival that uses the arts and culture, sports, education, to make spaces where people can connect as fellow human beings beyond labels, as well as promoting a deeper understanding of why people are displaced and the barriers that they face along the way. It's a partnership project that's coordinated by us at Counterpoints Arts. Here are our wonderful national partners that make Refugee Week possible. And it's an umbrella festival. And what that means is that anybody can hold their own event or activity as part of Refugee Week. These are just a very small selection of some of the organisations and groups that held events and activities for Refugee Week 2020. So Digital Refugee Week was a massive learning curve for all of us. And we never dreamt at the end of last June that we'd even be contemplating holding a Digital Refugee Week again this year. And we're very much, I'm sure, like all of you, playing it by ear at the moment and keeping an eye on the news. It looks like at least Refugee will at least partly happen online. Obviously, we all hope that some in-person events might be possible as well. Our network was concerned about being able to reach people that don't have tech access or internet access, and people found creative ways around this. Nottingham Refugee Week made these creative packs that they delivered to families across Nottingham. And at the same time, we were excited about the possibilities opened up by doing things online. So this is a project by IOM, our national partners IOM, Together Productions and I Speak Music. They did a song and a music video with 120 performers on from 15 different countries as part of Refugee Week. We had events where people's brothers were coming in from Idlib, people were joining from Japan. That's obviously something that we want to build on for this year. Refugee Week is a platform for the perspectives where people who have experienced displacement can share their perspectives, their voices, their creative work on their own terms, often using arts and culture to reach wider audiences. This is an anthology we produced last year on the Refugee Week theme of Imagine, bringing together really well-known writers and emerging writers. It might be through comedy that those wider audiences are reached, and those unexpected voices and narratives are heard. It might be through sports, through football, through mainstream media. Refugee Week events and activities happen in come in all shapes and sizes in all kinds of different spaces. So it might be a fully fledged arts festival. These images that I'm showing are from Migration Matters in Sheffield. They did an online arts festival of 45 events for Refugee Week 2020. And people that organise Refugee Week events, they use the expertise, the networks, the specialisms that they already have. So Brighton and Hove libraries for Refugee Week 2020 were a great example of what a library can do. They were sharing books by and about refugees with their users. They did story time, Refugee Week story time for children, and they ran this really wonderful, beautiful flash fiction competition. This was one of the winners that I'm showing in the child category. And hundreds of schools take part in Refugee Week every year. This poem on the theme of Imagine was by Year 1 and 2 pupils at Topaz School in Cardiff, and we tweeted it, and it was picked up by a group in Canada who then used the poem in a Refugee Week event over there. For anyone that can't see the screen, the poem says, "Imagine if everyone was free to be who they want, to run to the sea, splashing their feet into the water without a care and no one to order." And Refugee Week is just 1 week of the year, but often Refugee Week events are a culmination of longer term projects, or they're the start of something that has a longer legacy. Compass Collective for Refugee Week 2020, they did workshops with 60 young people who are refugees and asylum seekers across the UK for 8 weeks. And then they did a performance or a sharing in partnership with Shakespeare's Globe during Refugee Week itself. So how can you get involved in Refugee Week? And we really, really hope that you do. Refugee Week 2021 is the 14th to the 20th of June. And the theme, as Dita has mentioned, is We Cannot Walk Alone. If you've never been involved before, maybe even if you have, a good place to start might be to have a look at the Refugee Week Network's shared values and principles, which is we're sharing for the first time today. over autumn, as I mentioned, we've been consulting with our partners and network about what Refugee Week is, where it's going, what it means to people. And we've put together a series of values that we believe we share as a network. One of them is that we believe that we are, all of us, part of a shared us, a bigger us, that we recognise our experiences are different, that we have unequal access to power and resources, but at the same time that we're all interconnected, and that the safety and the welfare of each of us is everybody's business, and that we're part of a single us, or a bigger us. Another one of our shared values is that Refugee Week is for everybody, it's open to all. Everybody has the right to take part, and as a movement we seek to make Refugee Week events and activities as inclusive as possible. I will share the link in the chat to take a look at those shared values. I'm just going to go back actually. Another great way to get started is to hold a planning meeting in your local area or with your local area. And if you're not sure what's happening locally, you can get in touch with us on the Refugee Week website. There's a list of regional contacts who you can contact. And at the finale of the Refugee Week Slow Conference on the 11th of March, there will be networking by region. So hopefully you can meet other people in your region. And I'm also going to share, we've put together a suggested agenda, which hopefully will help with people planning local meetings. And I wanted to specifically mention that on the 11th of February, so I think that's next Tuesday, if there's anyone here from Bristol or the Southwest, they're holding a refugee planning meeting on the 11th. And the support that we can offer for you organising your Refugee Week event and activity comes in the form of resources. We aim to give you the resources and the tools that you need for organising your event. At Counterpoints, we also coordinate Platformer, the National Platformer Arts and Refugees Network. Tom, who's here, is really happy to chat through arts and cultural projects about migration. If you're looking for an artist for an event, chat to him, or if you'd like any guidance. We also partner with IMEX that lead on Refugee Week communications, and they're happy to help with your social media questions. We aim to help this incredible network to link up and make useful connections, and that's partly what this conference is about. And we also, outside of the conference, we hold monthly meetups. So we've got one in, let me get this right, in April for faith groups and faith communities about how to get involved in Refugee Week. We've got one in May for teachers and schools. And throughout the Slow Conference, we're holding a mixture of practical workshops, so things that hopefully will be useful for you in getting involved in Refugee Week, so how to reach wider audiences, ideas for holding online events or hybrid events, as well as looking at some of the bigger questions around this work, about leadership, about representation. So we hope to see you at future sessions as well. And I'm just sharing, this is a bit of a timeline from now up until Refugee Week. So we'll be sharing an organizer pack and a media pack in April, a schools pack and a social media pack in May. And we also encourage you to upload your events to the Refugee Week website, and we're asking if at all possible for that to be done by mid-May. I think that I've finished. I really hope to see you at the rest of the Slow Conference, and we're really excited about celebrating Refugee Week with all of you. As Tita said, the theme of this year's Refugee Week is "We Cannot Walk Alone." It's an invitation for all of us to think about how we can reach beyond our existing circles, to connect across difference, bring new people, new partners into our events, into our activities as organisers, collaborators, as audiences. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to Sundus from Blackbird Collective, who are a collective. We're really excited at Counterpoints Arts. We've commissioned them as one of our 5 artistic commissions for 2021. And Sundus is going to talk a bit about their work, what the theme "We Cannot Walk Alone" means to them, and is going to share a poem. So over to you, Sundus.
Hi everyone, it's great to be here. Thank you so much. So yeah, I'm Sundus from Blackbird Collective, one of 5. We're a network that's of artists who collaborate and started recently, just actually during the beginning of the pandemic. So I think for us, the theme for Refugee Week really resonates with us. Collaboration, community work, working with refugee and migrant groups is really at the center of our work and what we value as a collective. Our work has previously, like we started off doing murals, street art in London during the first lockdown, celebrating key workers and their great work, and also highlighting the disproportionate deaths for underrepresented groups. And that's kind of where we started off, and from there we kind of were able to really come together and really make some really great things. And as a collective, a lot of our work and our themes really focus on migration and refugees, looking at looking at migrants as pathfinders, and really looking at really looking at the spiritual imagination that entails a migrant's journey and how that is sort of underrepresented in some way, and really trying to kind of speak about these sort of things that usually are sort of untold stories. And I think for us, this theme is really amazing. And I was just going to share a piece of writing that we did for our previous commission for the National Maritime Museum for the piece of the Ghost Meridian, which was a sale that we did, and that was a commission that we did last summer for them, and which has just been taken down. But just as a visual sort of reference, the sale had a front to it, which was of a reinterpretation of Union Jack, with some visuals and figurative work, and then on the other side was a black deportation letter that was hand painted. So and this is something that I just wanted to read this out as a way. This is the interpretation that we brought with this work, but I really wanted to read it out because I think it's an important starting point and to illustrate our perspective really as a collective, but also a departing point for us. At the prime meridian, the line of longitude is defined by not degrees. Hanging is a ghostly sail on the Cutty Sark's masts. Ghosts are usually associated with folktales, far from human discovery and science. But for the wretched, the victims of violence and atrocities, adopting the demeanor of a spirit is often the only way to be present within an overwhelmingly scientific world. A world that was first tailored for British interest and fueled out of the suffering and the grief of others. And usually it is the only way for unresolved pain to resurface from the depth of repression. From Greenwich, time is realized and uniformed from an observatory. Imaginary borders are drawn across the equator, and our Earth was split into time zones. The white ivory statues and palaces have us believe that it was for the good of humanity, for its unity, for its development, and for every corner of a foreign field that is forever England. Occupations, slave ships, opium wars, colonial expeditions are all overlooked and marked with Union Jacks. And throughout maritime adventures, Britain shaped the world in its own image. When we look at the clock to tell the time, when we look at maps to find our homes, we tread on a world that was measured before us. However, the consequences of this drawn and divided world are suffered by millions. Migrants, families, communities are traversing across seas and time zones, fleeing violently drawn borders and searching for a new home. It was in the spirit of human determination, we are told, that the explorers now in marble busts discovered strange lands, bringing light to the world. Yet migrants are revoked of their accomplishments. They sit waiting in deportation prisons, treated as as beings who have mysteriously emerged from dark waters, and for a culture that claims to be modern, valuing the individual through work, the labour behind migration is wholly disregarded. It isn't considered as a holy adventure, a brave expedition, or a human discovery. Despite the impossibility of a migrant's route, the work and the sweat behind the endless journey, Britain fails to see the migrant as a pioneer, a pathfinder, a bearer of hope. But instead, it quantifies the migrant struggle in a couple of paragraphs on a deportation letter and deepens the tragedy. No imperial nor metric measuring system would measure migrants' wins. And migrant time isn't made of just minutes and hours. Its units are lorries, lifeboats, borders, camps, long roads that cut through all 7 seas and all 4 seasons. Smugglers' glares of envy, stares of pity, rivers of tears, and an endless trail of Home Office letters. Time is essentially human tolerance. How long can your feet carry you? How far you can run? Its duration can be infinite. Its pain is endless, like a vast empire in which the sun never sets and the blood never dries.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to Emily for sharing that introduction to Refugee Week. I particularly loved seeing all of those photographs of the artistic activity that's been going on across the UK. And then Sandos from Blackbird, I can't stop thinking about that image that you planted towards the beginning of the piece about starting in Greenwich and those lines, those timelines shooting out and everything that that represents in terms of division and how you went on to share the power of testimony. Thank you. Thank you very much. So everyone, with that, fueled with inspiration, we're going to now hear from 3 more people who've been involved in projects for Refugee Week. At the end of this, we'll have time for a Q&A. So please do think of anything that you'd like to know more about and pop your question into the chat. You can start doing that now, and we will start to go through those and put your questions to our guest speakers today. You can also raise your hand by clicking on the reactions button at the bottom of your screen if you'd prefer to verbally ask your question. So firstly, I'm delighted to welcome Katja de Haas, who is an architect from Giant Dolls House Project. Katja, are you there? A big welcome to you. We can't wait to hear from you.
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted now. Yes, hi everybody. I have a few slides, so I'll put up the slides. The Giant Dolls House Project. Can you see it? This?
Not just yet at the moment.
Okay, I'll do share screen. Sorry, share screen. Share. Can you see it now?
Yes, brilliant. We've got that now.
Perfect. Giant Dolls House is a collaborative social arts project, and we try to get as many people as possible to make a doll's house in a shoebox and tell their story. I've been working with the first Refugee Week pre-lockdown in 2019. I worked with Oxfam, and we went to Jordan and we made doll's houses with the residents from Zaraa camp. And we asked them, what do you want the people in London to know about you? And this is the installation we did. And a lot of people had very different stories. And we had men, women, children, they all made a doll's house. They wrote down their story and they could say whatever they wanted to. And their messages were all different, very different from maybe what they would have expressed in interviews, and a much wider variety. And the other thing was that because it was a doll's house, also women who did not want to be photographed or online, they could also tell their story. So then the doll's houses from Zaraa were brought to London, where we had more participants, also children from lots of schools, from Oxfam schools. We had architects, all kinds of people to just create a community. And that's the idea of the Giant Dolls House. Everybody should have a space in a community. And in order, if you have a doll's house in a community, you have a voice. It's a very simple concept. This was doll's house one of the women made. Two of the women, they were both widowed, and they decided to make the camp rather than about their life in Syria. And they said, no one thinks it's easy to live in this environment. We live here and we get used to it. We are grateful for our safety. When I came from the crisis, our home was destroyed. I came here with anger and sadness at all what had happened. The camp had given me memories to help to go on. And it's a strong point, a rebirth, and I'm proud that I could adjust to such environments. These women were both working, they were helping other refugees, and their children were doing really well in school, and they really wanted to make this to show their strength. Then last year, lockdown happened. We were going to do another Doll's House project, but everybody was furloughed and everything, so we decided to go online, which we'll do again this year. And we had actually Brighton and Hove also work. So we worked with lots of groups from Refugee Week, from Oxfam, from architect groups to make a doll's house. And last year, because a lot of people who used to be refugees made doll's houses, but it's not everybody is in the mood to make a doll's house. So it was in solidarity and also to raise awareness about refugees. And it's a way that everybody can participate on their own level. So this is, you can send your house, you can take a picture of your house and send it and write a small story. We made a booklet of all the submissions. This is one participant. He said, I'm seeking asylum in UK now. Now everyone else understands lockdown 2. No permission to work, no space, no life, no future, just waiting and waiting. And it's just, and this was from someone else, an architect, and she's been in a room looking at the plants and the plants growing. And then we had 172 submissions last year, each with their own story, which you can look at the website. And we are planning another one, and I think we want to slowly start people to submit dolls' houses. So if anyone wants to be involved or whatever, you can visit our website. And Oxfam made an education link already about the project. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Katja, for sharing your work with all of us. Amazing to hear about that example of artistic activity, raising awareness. What a statement of everyone having space in their communities. And really interesting to hear from you as well about opportunities to work digitally, which lots of us may be thinking about. So everyone, if you've got any questions for Katja, please do put them in the chat. But we'll go on to our next guest speaker. So we'll pause for now, Katja, and then we'll open up a conversation once we've heard from everyone. Thank you again. Now I'd like to welcome Rachael Cox, who is Programme Manager Celebrating Sanctuary Birmingham and coordinator of Birmingham Refugee Week. Rachael, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Sita. Thank you, Emily and everybody. It's great to see so many people here today. So yeah, I'm Rachael Cox from Celebrating Sanctuary Birmingham, and we're an arts organisation. Our main mission is to support and promote the work of refugee artists and migrant artists living in the UK. We do this through running year-round series of events, usually. We run the Refugee Week Festival each year in June, and we've done that since 2002 when the organisation began. And then we also do artist development, helping artists to develop their careers and practice, and we run community projects with refugees and asylum seekers. So usually our Refugee Week Festival would take place in lots of different events and venues across the city, with partnerships with people like Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery, Town Hall Symphony Hall, Icon, MAC, but also in community settings as well, going into initial accommodation, hostels, taking performers. This is a picture from a year-long project that we ran with Syrian refugees in Handsworth, and they produced some artwork which we launched last year, not last year, the year before, at Refugee Week at the Library of Birmingham. So normally Refugee Week is about lots of engagement, lots of partnerships and bringing people together. So obviously last year, like everybody else, very short notice, we had to completely rethink the programme and take everything online. We had pretty much no experience of doing this sort of thing, doing anything online other than promotion was really the only thing we've used online services for. So we had to sort of really get creative with limited skills and try and pull together a programme. So we focused on trying to support the artists. We have a core group of artists who we've supported for a number of years from different communities, and we made our priority to support those artists to be able to work and create new work. So we commissioned 10 refugee artists to produce either a new piece of music, record it at home. Some people produced spoken word, visual arts, photography. We asked everybody to create their work around the theme of Imagine, which was last year's theme for Refugee Week. And we had a range of work, and it was really, you know, it was a really good opportunity for us as well to see what was possible and what we were able to do. We were able to reach a lot more people and to really get artists' work quite far and wide. And we had, for each of the artists that was involved, this is 3 of them here, we produced a biog and profile picture, and we involved a designer to give it all a sort of a theme and common look and feel. So we released throughout the week, we had featured artists each day, and we released their pictures, profiles, any work and links to their own work, websites, things like that. So we just tried to really make it a feature throughout the week of featuring a couple of artists each day. We also had 3 artists who we commissioned to do a creative workshop for us around their practice. So we had Millicent Chapanda did one around Mbira and the history of Mbira and tradition of Mbira in Zimbabwe. We had Zaraa Hamad did a workshop around the DAF drum and its cultural relevance in Kurdistan. And we had Fahim Zazai did a workshop around Afghan kite making and his sort of history of making kites as a child in Afghanistan. So we put those all online, and again we promoted those throughout the week. The other thing that we did last year was because over the last couple of years we've brought together the Birmingham Refugee Week Network, which is a group of organisations from arts, culture, refugee support, and we all come together normally to have meetings. We had our first online meeting last week to start talking about this year's Refugee Week. But last year, literally everything happened via email. We kept in contact. We asked people if they had anything to contribute. We set up a Facebook group for the Birmingham Network and just invited all of the groups to share videos, contacts, information on campaigns they were running, information about their organisations. And which we did actually get quite a lot of interest through that group. I think we increased membership to about 350, 400 people through the week. And a lot were new to us, were people that we weren't connected to before, a lot of young people, a lot of people from diverse backgrounds. So we were very conscious that we were reaching new people and we were getting information and content out to new groups of people. So that was all really positive. We also did a partnership event with Icon, which was a soapboxes event, which was part of their Migrant Festival and part of the Midsummer Festival as well. And that was an event which involved 20 quickfire responses, 3-minute videos made by different people, artists, activists across the city, arts organisations, refugee support organisations, again responding to the theme of Imagine and what it meant to them, some responding creatively, some talking. So it was a real mixture of responses, and that was streamed on Midsummer Day, which was also World Refugee Day, and then Icon have left that up online, so people have been able to go back and view that. I think it's about an hour and a half sort of documentary or piece, so that stayed online. So as I say, really we just tried to do as many different things as we could think of to do in a short space of time, and to give exposure to as many refugee artists as we could. Since Refugee Week, we have actually explored a bit with doing some live stream events, and that's something that we probably will include more this year. So I think that the one thing that we were sort of very keen to address for this year is that we were conscious that although we were reaching new people, we were reaching lots of people, we were getting content far and wide, we were conscious that our community engagement side for local communities wasn't really happening, because a lot of those networks had sort of fallen off the radar or weren't meeting, or staff were furloughed. So this year, through the network, one of our sort of goals is to really make sure that we're partnering with the right organisations and making sure that we're involving people and making that engagement happen. So, I mean, I think the definite benefits, as I said, were, you know, we discovered a lot of new possibilities for online content and what we could do. And I think that's helped us as an organisation to grow and realise where we can continue sort of progressing. But also learning about the different aspects of delivery, you know, the technical side of things, areas that we need to skill up on, areas that we need training, new software, things like that. You know, it's been a real learning curve in lots of different ways. And I think that's been good for us as an organisation, sort of, because I think we feel that even if we're doing live stuff, we want to be doing more online stuff. We'd like to be doing both, because I think that way we're reaching the local audiences and the wider audiences, and it just gives us more scope. And as I say, with supporting refugee artists, it gives them more scope to get their work out to wider audiences. So I think, you know, sort of my advice to anybody sort of planning activities for this year would be start planning as early as possible. Get your partnerships in place, because I think the partnerships are what really makes it happen, really makes it come together. And we always, through our network, try and look at what people can bring to a partnership. Do they have a group of refugees who want to get involved? Do they have an arts program? Do they have a venue? Do they have a technical platform or an online platform? And try and link those people up so that we can all benefit from what we're all good at. And also, yeah, to recognise early, as we learned last year, the areas where your weaknesses are, so that you can get the support from people who know what they're doing, which is always really helpful. And to just, yeah, try and get the events planned as early as possible, so that you've got time to promote them. And I think for us, for this year, we are planning some live events and activities. We're keeping our fingers crossed, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to do that. But we will also plan online. So, you know, we will plan for both eventualities, and hopefully we can do both. So I hope that was helpful. And if anybody would like to ask me any questions, then thank you. That's great.
Rachael, thank you so much for such a detailed and inspiring presentation of your work. I loved seeing the design, raising the profile of people and artists, and to hear that you've managed to be increasing membership, increasing the reach, even through difficult times, and utilising digital, but also knowing the importance of having live events as well. Super interesting. And what you mentioned about the importance of partnerships, already everyone's using the chat function to say, hey, I want to get involved with this. I've got these skills, I can offer this. So Rachael, do go and see in the chat. You've already got loads of people wanting to get in touch with you. And this is exactly the space to do that, everyone. So thank you. Keep using that chat box. And this is the place for partnerships to form new ones. And I just encourage you to continue doing that. We'll have some space later to go into breakout rooms as well. And now, thank you for that, Rachael. We do have questions, but I'm going to go to Rana first, and then we'll put the questions to all three of you. A massive welcome to Rana Ibrahim, who is founder and leader of Iraqi Women, Art and War. Rana, welcome. We can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you, Sita. Thank you very much for everyone and for organizing this brilliant conference. It's a pleasure to be part of this conference. My name is Rana Ibrahim. I'm from Iraq originally. I'm a forced immigrant after the war of Iraq to the UK, and I'm an artist. I call myself a Muslim artist or Arab artist, and I would like to share with you my experience with the Refugee Week last year. So we, first of all, my behind me is my logo, which is IWAW, and there is a website as well in front with my name. And if you like to know more about the Iraqi women art and war, which is in Arabic, المرأة العراقية الفن والحرب. So please visit my website. So this is actually like an image here when I did joined the online artwork. I've designed art workshop. So I'm an artist, collage artist. So I discovered myself actually even through the lockdown. So this is actually a story of myself expressing my feeling during the lockdown in an art shape. So I actually liked to share this experience with people. So I've decided to join the Refugee Week last year, and I did the online workshop. We're open to everyone, and I think I've called it a ritual of every day. I think the theme was ritual of every day last year, and it was like joined with Arabic writing because my first language is Arabic, and artwork. So run through 1 week, one every day. It was very intense, but I really enjoyed it. And it's opened the door for people from all over the world, not only from the UK, to join the session. And we start building on like a piece of art during the week. So it's like people come, integrate with each other, learn about each other and what is refugee. And also I joined it with Arabic writing. So here is like more about if you know how to read Arabic, you can see that is a happy Eid. So whatever available in the house, you can do your collage artwork. So you don't have to spend money to do. So you all you need is a paper, scrap, and some of and glue and some paint, you know, drawing things, and you build on it. If we go to the next. If I have the next one, yeah, so this is here written أسبوع اللاجئ. So the people who join us, they start learning each day a letter of how to write Refugee Week in Arabic, and they can build on this every day, and then at the end they have the full letters in Arabic as well as in English. So this is here written, you can see the Arabic letters, so أسبوع اللاجئ. So actually it's really encourage people who want to know about Arabic language, and they try to write it as well, because it's art and calligraphy as well, and they like to learn how to write it, and it's different from right to left and all this. And this has actually opened a lot of conversation between us, either you know, working, learning from each other about lifestyle, how to cope in the COVID-19, the lockdown and all this. So this is really one activity I did. The other activity I did, I don't know if we have some images here, but please visit my website and also my Facebook page. Just put here, it's I called it Iraqi cuisine session. So every day we talked about you know, share about food, Iraqi food with people, and really was so interesting because people from Iraq, because my group was only based in Oxford, but now I have a group in Iraq. From Iraq, they join us and they share their food, and every day you learn about Iraqi food, and it's 1 hour as well during all the week. So this 2 activity was it's really amazing. It's opened the door for people to integrate. There is even the language barrier was not there. they just join and really want to learn from each other, and it's a way of feeling each other as well, and helping for mental health things. So this, and do encourage everyone, please get in touch with us, and share your ideas, and hopefully we can work together as well. And please visit my website, and I'm open for any question if you like. Thank you.
Wonderful, Rana. Thank you so much. I recently took part in a collage workshop, and so I could just feel everything that you were saying. It was wonderful to see your work, and then to hear about the mental health and well-being benefits. It's so true, and thank you for sharing your contact details as well. So now I'm going to open up for some questions. I've already got